The great hall was filled with the buzz of voices from many different worlds. Tall windows let in soft blue light, and everywhere were symbols of the Galactic Accord, the powerful group that kept peace in the galaxy. Today, the mood was tense. In the middle of the hall stood a young alien woman, her face set with pride and anger. Her name was Siraxa, and she came from Valari Prime, a planet known for its strict rules and proud people. Siraxa was accused of attacking a human ambassador. The ambassador, a man named Elias Grant, was no ordinary person. He was a famous commander from Earth, known for his bravery and success in many battles. The accusation was serious, and the trial had gathered attention from many planets. The tribunal, a group of judges from different species, listened carefully. Siraxa's people said she had been defending herself. The humans argued she had started the fight. But the judges were not just deciding who was right or wrong. They were deciding what would happen to Siraxa. After many hours of talking and debating, the judges reached their decision. Siraxa would not be sent to prison or fined. Instead, she would be sent to live with Elias Grant. This was a punishment meant to teach her a lesson and repair the damage she caused. In the eyes of the Valari, this was a harsh and shameful sentence. To be given to a human as a kind of property went against everything their culture believed. Siraxa stood tall, but did not speak. She felt a mix of anger, fear, and confusion. She had never expected this. She had expected a quick end to the trial, maybe a fine or some small punishment. But to be sent to live with the very man she had fought, it felt like losing her freedom. Elias, on the other hand, sat calmly. He had heard the news before it was made public. To him, this was a strange political game. He had no wish to have Siraxa live with him. He was a soldier, used to following orders, but this was different. He was not used to dealing with politics or prisoners. Yet the tribunal's ruling was clear, and he had to obey. As Siraxa was escorted away, many eyes watched her. Some looked with sympathy, others with judgment. But Siraxa did not care. She was angry at the humans, angry at the Valari, leaders who had allowed this to happen, and angry at herself. The ship that took Siraxa to Elias's outpost was quiet. She stared out of the window at the stars passing by. She thought about what was waiting for her on EO7, a remote human colony far from Valari Prime. She did not know what to expect. Would Elias treat her like a slave? Would he hate her? Could she survive in a place so different from her home? When the ship landed, Elias was waiting. He looked at Siraxa with little expression. "You're here," he said simply. "I don't want you here. But the tribunal's orders are clear." Siraxa met his gaze without fear. "I am not your property," she said firmly. "I will not be treated like a slave." Elias nodded. "You're not a prisoner. You're free to move. But you will follow the rules here. This is my home, and I expect respect." The days that followed were cold and difficult. Siraxa struggled to adjust to life on EO7. The air smelled different. The sky was not the purple she was used to. The people were rough and simple, not like the elegant Valari, nobles she grew up with. Elias gave her a small room in his quarters, but he kept his distance. He was polite but distant, not warm or welcoming. Siraxa felt lonely and trapped. She wanted to return home, but knew that was impossible, not until the tribunal allowed it. Their conversations were short and tense. Siraxa tried to explain her side of the story, but Elias listened without much interest. He saw her as part of the punishment, a problem to manage, not a person to understand. One evening, Siraxa walked outside the outpost. The stars looked different from here, colder and sharper. She thought about her family, her friends, and the life she had lost. She wished she could turn back time, but she also felt a strange curiosity. Who was this man she had fought? Why was he so calm in the face of everything? Could there be more to him than just a soldier? For the first time, Siraxa allowed herself to wonder about the future, not as a punishment or a prisoner, but as someone who might find a new path. The sun rose slowly over the dusty plains of EOS 7. Its weak light struggled to warm the small human colony, a place far from the bright cities of Valari Prime where Siraxa was born. The air was dry and filled with the smell of metal and earth. This was Elias Grant's home now, a remote outpost where humans worked hard to survive and build a future. Siraxa stepped out of her small room and looked around. The walls were plain, the floors rough, and the furniture simple. Nothing like the grand halls and soft silk cushions she was used to. She wrapped her cloak tighter around herself and tried to ignore the feeling of being out of place. Elias watched her quietly from across the room. His face was unreadable, but there was no welcome in his eyes. He was a man who had fought many battles, and his calm was born from years of experience. Yet now, with Siraxa here, there was a new kind of tension in the air, one neither of them could ignore. "I have arranged your schedule," Elias said finally, his voice low but clear. "You will learn our customs and help with the outpost work. You are not a prisoner, but you are under my responsibility. You must follow the rules." Siraxa folded her arms. "I am not your servant," she replied. "I will not be ordered around." Elias nodded slowly. "I don't expect that. But this place is different from your home. You will need to adapt." For days, Siraxa tried to find her place in the outpost. She watched the humans working, repairing machines, tending to gardens, and guarding the perimeter. Their lives were hard and simple, but filled with purpose. They had no grand palaces or noble titles here, only sweat, effort, and survival. Some of the colonists looked at Siraxa with curiosity. A few whispered behind her back, unsure if she was a prisoner or a guest. None dared to speak to her openly at first. She was the alien noble sent as a punishment, a living reminder of the strange trial that had shaken the galactic accord. One morning, Siraxa followed a group of workers to the mining fields outside the colony. The sun was higher now and the heat was strong. She felt the rough ground beneath her feet and smelled the dust rising from the machines. The miners were a tough group, used to danger and hard work. They stared at Siraxa, wondering why she was there, but she kept her head high, refusing to show fear or weakness. "Come with me," Elias said suddenly, breaking her thoughts. He was standing nearby, watching the workers carefully. "I want you to see how we live here." Siraxa nodded, and together they walked toward the machines. Elias explained the work, how the miners dug for minerals needed to build ships, tools, and food supplies. He told her about the dangers they faced: equipment failures, weather storms, and pirate attacks. Siraxa listened quietly, surprised by the human determination. They were far from perfect, but they had courage and strength she had not expected. Her own people often looked down on humans as simple or wild, but here, in this harsh place, humans survived through grit and teamwork. That evening, Elias and Siraxa sat by a small fire outside the outpost. The stars were bright, and the quiet night made everything feel closer. Elias broke the silence. "You don't have to stay here if you don't want to," he said softly. "The tribunal made their decision, but this place is not a prison. You can leave if you choose." Siraxa looked at him, surprised by the offer. "And where would I go? Back to Valari Prime? They will never accept me again. I have lost my honor." Elias nodded. "Maybe honor is not about where you come from, but what you do now." Siraxa thought about those words. She was proud, but pride had caused her pain. Maybe there was a different way, a new beginning. The next day, a small problem arose. One of the mining machines broke down, stopping work and putting the colony at risk. The miners panicked, unsure if they could fix it quickly. Siraxa stepped forward. "I have studied technology," she said quietly. "Let me try to help." Elias watched her carefully. It was a chance to prove herself. Siraxa approached the machine, her fingers moving over the controls and panels with surprising skill. The miners gathered around, watching in silence. After a few tense moments, Siraxa found the problem: a faulty power core. She repaired the connections and restarted the machine. It hummed back to life, and the miners cheered quietly. Elias smiled for the first time since she arrived. "Not bad," he said. "You might be useful after all." Siraxa felt a small spark of pride. Maybe this strange new life was not so bad. Maybe she could belong here, even if it was different from everything she had known. But both Elias and Siraxa knew this was only the beginning. They were still strangers, bound by duty and punishment, not friendship or trust. There were many challenges ahead, and they would have to face them together. The quiet calm of the outpost on EOS 7 was shattered early one morning by the sharp alarm bells ringing through the corridors. Elias Grant was already awake, his senses alert from years of experience. He grabbed his jacket and hurried to the command center. Siraxa, still rubbing sleep from her eyes, followed at a distance. "Pirates," Elias said grimly, reading the reports. "They've attacked a nearby mining facility. We have to act fast." Siraxa's heart raced. Pirates were known across the galaxy for their violence and greed. She had never faced them herself, but she had heard the stories. The mining facility was vital to the outpost's survival. If it fell, many people would lose their jobs and homes. Elias turned to Siraxa. "I need you with me. Your knowledge of tactics and your telepathic skills could help us." Siraxa hesitated. She was not a soldier like Elias. But she also knew this was a chance to show she was more than a punishment or a slave. She nodded. The small team prepared quickly, loading weapons and supplies onto hover vehicles. The ride to the mining site was tense. The landscape passed by in a blur of dust and rock. Siraxa watched Elias carefully. He was calm but focused, every muscle ready for battle. When they arrived, the scene was chaos. Smoke rose from damaged machines and miners ran for cover. The pirates were still on the attack, shooting and stealing supplies. Elias ordered the team to set up a defensive perimeter. "Siraxa, stay close," Elias said. "Use your telepathy to detect enemy movements." Siraxa closed her eyes and reached out with her mind. It was a strange feeling, sensing thoughts and emotions from others nearby. She focused on the pirates, feeling their fear, anger, and confusion. "Two on the left ridge," she whispered. "Another group is moving toward the storage tents." Elias nodded and directed the team to intercept. Siraxa's warnings allowed them to avoid traps and ambushes. Her ability to sense danger made a real difference. As the fight went on, Siraxa moved alongside Elias. She saw how he led, not with shouting or anger, but with steady commands and confidence. She also saw his care for his people, risking himself to protect them. When a pirate sniper took aim from a high cliff, Siraxa spotted the danger and warned Elias just in time. Together, they neutralized the threat. Elias looked at her with surprise and respect. "You're better than I thought," he said during a brief pause. Siraxa smiled faintly. "I'm not just a noble or a prisoner, I can fight too." The battle lasted for hours, but with their teamwork, the pirates were pushed back. The miners cheered, grateful for the rescue. Elias and Siraxa stood side by side, tired but victorious. That night, back at the outpost, Siraxa and Elias shared a quiet moment. The fire crackled softly as they sat outside, watching the stars. "You surprised me today," Elias said. "I didn't think you had it in you." Siraxa looked down. "I surprised myself. I want to be more than a punishment. I want to be someone who matters." Elias nodded. "You do matter. More than you know." For the first time, the walls between them began to break. They were no longer just prisoner and commander. They were allies, maybe even friends. But the galaxy was not kind to such bonds. Siraxa's people still waited for her to return. The humans still doubted the value of an alien noble who was sent as punishment. And dangers lurked beyond the stars. Still, in this small outpost on this quiet night, Elias and Siraxa found hope. They had fought side by side and survived. They had found a connection in the most unlikely place. And they both wondered what might come next. The days after the pirate attack felt different for both Elias and Siraxa. The danger had brought them closer, breaking some of the cold silence that had settled between them since her arrival. Still, neither of them spoke openly about their feelings. Both had walls built high, guarded by pride and past pain. Elias returned to his usual duties, managing the outpost and training the human workers. But now Saraxa was no longer just a guest or a punishment. She was part of the team. She spent her time learning the ways of the humans on EOS 7 and helping where she could. One morning, Saraxa was in the small garden near the outpost, tending to the plants that grew slowly in the dry soil. Gardening was something she never imagined herself doing, but here even small green things were precious. Elias approached quietly. "You're good with those plants," he said, nodding toward the garden. "You have patience." Saraxa smiled faintly. "On Valari Prime, we have gardens, too, but they are more for beauty than food." Elias looked around. "Here, everything we grow helps us survive. It's not about luxury. It's about life." Saraxa thought about that. She had spent her life surrounded by luxury and rules, but she had never thought much about survival. Maybe that was the difference between their worlds. A few days later, a small group of mercenaries attacked the colony's supply depot. They were less organized than the pirates, but still dangerous. Elias and Saraxa rushed to defend the outpost. During the fight, Saraxa shielded a group of workers from falling debris, using her quick reflexes and strength. Elias covered her while she helped others escape. The humans were amazed to see her bravery. She was no longer the distant noblewoman, but a protector. After the battle, the colony's leader invited Saraxa to speak to the workers. At first, she was nervous, unsure if they would accept her. But when she spoke about working together and standing strong, her words inspired the tired and worried people. Elias watched from the back, proud but surprised. The woman he had met months ago seemed different now, stronger, more confident. That evening, Elias and Saraxa sat alone in the command room. The quiet hum of machines filled the air. "You're changing," Elias said softly. "Not just here, but inside." Saraxa looked at him. "I'm learning. I want to be more than what they think I am. I want to help." Elias nodded. "You have a place here if you want it. You don't have to be who your people say you should be." Saraxa's eyes shone with emotion. For the first time, she allowed herself to hope that she could build a new life, one not tied to punishment or shame, but to friendship and purpose. Days turned into weeks. Saraxa worked alongside Elias and the colonists, fixing machines, helping with repairs, and learning the language and customs. Slowly, the distance between them faded. They shared stories about their pasts, their dreams, and fears. One night, under the soft glow of the stars, Saraxa told Elias about her family, how they expected her to follow strict rules and never question orders, how she had made a mistake that changed everything. Elias listened quietly. Then he shared his own story, of battles lost and won, of friends he had lost in war, and the loneliness that came with being a leader. They understood each other better now. Not as enemies or strangers, but as two people shaped by pain and hope. The walls between them began to fall. The quiet routine of the outpost was broken one bright morning when a ship from Valari Prime appeared on the horizon. The humans at the colony watched with curiosity and concern as the elegant Valari vessel landed gracefully on the outskirts. Saraxa's heart tightened. She had not heard from her home since her punishment began, and now her past had come calling. Elias met the Valari delegation in the command room. Their leader, a tall woman named Vera, looked serious and proud. She was dressed in the traditional robes of Valari nobility, her sharp eyes scanning the room. "Commander Grant," Vera said, her voice calm but firm. "We have come to bring Saraxa back. Her punishment has ended." Elias nodded slowly. "Saraxa is under my care, but she is free to leave if she chooses." Vera's eyes flicked to Saraxa, who stood quietly by the door. "Your house expects you to return. Your presence is needed for important political matters." Saraxa's chest tightened. She had known this moment would come, but she was not ready. Returning meant losing everything she had begun to build here. Her new life, her freedom, and perhaps even herself. Vera stepped closer. Your family is concerned for you. They want you to remember who you are. Siraxa met her gaze. I have not forgotten, but I am not the same person who left Valari Prime. Elias watched the exchange carefully. Siraxa has chosen to stay here. She is not a prisoner, and she will decide her future. The Valari delegation exchanged looks, clearly unhappy with the answer, but Elias's tone left no room for argument. That night, Siraxa sat alone under the stars, thinking about everything. The proud traditions of Valari Prime, the harsh punishment, and the unexpected friendship with Elias. She realized she had changed more than she expected. The next morning, Vera asked to speak with Siraxa privately. They walked together to a quiet part of the colony. You have disappointed your house, Vera said softly, but you have also shown strength. The choice is yours now. Return as you were, or build a new path. Siraxa took a deep breath. I choose to stay. I choose freedom. Vera studied her for a moment, then nodded. Then you must be ready. Your decision will change everything. When they returned, Vera informed Elias and the colony. The Valari would respect Siraxa's choice, but her family would no longer claim her as a noble daughter. Elias looked at Siraxa with new respect. You are stronger than I thought. Siraxa smiled faintly. I learned from the people here, from you. The colony welcomed Siraxa's decision. She was no longer seen as a prisoner or a symbol of punishment. She was one of them, a new member of the community. But the visit from home reminded both, Siraxa and Elias, that their bond was unusual and fragile. The galaxy was watching, and not everyone would accept what they had become. Still, they faced the future together, no longer by force, but by choice. The sun rose gently over EOS 7, casting long shadows across the quiet colony. The days since the Valari delegation's visit had brought a new energy to the outpost. Siraxa's decision to stay had changed everything, not only for her but for everyone around her. Siraxa stood on the small balcony of Elias's quarters, watching the morning light touch the rocky hills. For the first time in months, she felt calm. She was no longer a punishment, no longer a symbol of shame. She was free. But freedom came with choices and challenges. The Valari house had made it clear. By refusing to return, Siraxa had broken with her past. She was no longer a noble daughter, no longer part of the family that had raised her. The weight of that loss was heavy, but Siraxa carried it with quiet strength. One afternoon, Elias found her in the workshop, working on a broken piece of machinery. Her fingers moved confidently over the metal parts, fixing what others thought was beyond repair. You've changed a lot, Elias said, leaning against the doorway. You've gone from being angry and distant to someone who cares deeply about this place. Siraxa looked up and smiled. This place gave me a second chance. I want to help, not just survive. Elias nodded. And I want to help you. But you need to understand that choosing your own path means standing strong against those who will question you. Siraxa's eyes grew serious. I am ready. That evening, Siraxa took a bold step. She requested an audience with the colony's council. The room was filled with human leaders and workers, all curious to hear what she had to say. Standing tall, Siraxa spoke clearly. I renounce my noble title. I am no longer a member of the Valari House. From this moment, I choose to be a citizen of the Human Alliance. I want to build a life here, as one of you. The room was silent for a moment. Then applause broke out. Many had hoped for this, but hearing it from Siraxa herself made it real. Elias smiled quietly. You have made a brave choice. But not everyone was pleased. News of Siraxa's decision traveled quickly beyond the colony, reaching the ears of Valari leaders who saw her choice as betrayal. One day, a message arrived from Valari Prime. It was a warning. If Siraxa continued to live among humans, and refuse her duties, she would lose all rights to her family's support and protection. Elias read the message and looked at Siraxa. They want to control you with fear. Siraxa's expression was firm. I am not afraid. I am choosing my own future. Together, they began to work on a new mission. Siraxa used her knowledge of Valari politics and customs to help the colony improve relations with other species. Elias supported her every step, knowing that their partnership was more than personal. It was a symbol of hope. One evening, as they walked under the stars, Elias took Siraxa's hand. I know this path won't be easy, but I believe in you, and I believe in us. Siraxa squeezed his hand back. Together we can face whatever comes. The bond between them grew stronger, built on trust and respect. They were no longer prisoner and commander. They were partners, ready to face a future they chose themselves. Their story became known across star systems, a tale of courage, change, and the power of choice. Siraxa and Elias showed that even when worlds are different, people can find common ground. And in that common ground they found freedom. The day of the ceremony was bright and clear. The small colony on EO7 was buzzing with excitement, something it had never experienced before. People from different planets had come to witness a rare event, the marriage of Elias Grant, the human commander, and Siraxa, the former noble, of Valari Prime. What started as punishment only had grown into something powerful. The union was more than just between two people. It was a symbol of hope, unity, and a new way forward for many worlds. The ceremony was held in the main hall of the outpost. The room was decorated with simple flowers and lights, a mix of human and Valari traditions. Siraxa wore a dress that combined the elegance of her people with the practicality of the humans. Elias stood tall in his uniform, proud and calm. As Siraxa walked down the aisle, many eyes followed her. Some were filled with respect, others with surprise, but all understood the importance of the moment. Elias took her hand gently. Today we choose to build something new. Together. Siraxa nodded. Together, we are stronger than we ever were apart. The vows they exchanged were simple but full of meaning. They promised to support each other, to learn and grow, and to face the future side by side. After the ceremony, the celebration was warm and joyful. People shared food, stories, and laughter. The barriers between species and cultures felt smaller that day. Later, as the stars rose over the colony, Elias and Siraxa stood outside looking up. We've come far, Siraxa said softly. From punishment to this. Elias smiled. It wasn't easy, but we made it. Siraxa looked at him, her eyes full of hope. Do you think our story can change the galaxy? Elias nodded. It already has. People will remember this day. They will see that even the greatest divides can be bridged. Their journey was not over. Challenges would come, and old enemies might try to break what they had built. But Elias and Siraxa were ready. Together they had proven humanity's greatest strength, the power to change, to forgive, and to unite, and that was a future worth fighting for.